Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Right now, you and I are viewing the world through a kaleidoscope of beliefs and fears, perceptions, almost entirely based on experiences that we think we had in the past or how we recall those experiences. And that's not only deeply flawed, it's absolutely crippling. If you're truly committed to changing your life, you've got to be willing to change your mind. Hey guys, welcome back. John Michael Salvato here, and thanks for tuning in to our Year of Thinking Magically broadcast, the program where we bring you several prompts each week, uh, every couple days, designed to inspire you to consider shifting your mindset for a period of 24 hours that might result in a fuller, less limited, um, uh, less constricted by beliefs and fears mindset that helps you to transform the world around you by transforming the landscape within. And so each day I share with you what I'm personally doing in terms of mind shift, with the hopes that it'll inspire you to make a shift in your consciousness for the greater good as well. And thanks in advance for being kind enough to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell if you're watching this on YouTube, and share this with those that you think might vibe with us. You know, we often mistake our ego identity with who we really are. The ego is a construct, a constructed identity made up of our beliefs, the ideas and perceptions that we hold, and those things that we imagine to be true, like I said, interpreted through the lens of fear and through the lens of memory. And that's why someone who might claim to have been a nurse and biologist whose cult like associations with science deniers today might wind up spewing disgraceful, sickening anti vax propaganda. It's why a truly gentle and loving artist who may have a story to share might throw those who really had their best interest and heart under the bus, um, to chase down some get rich quick scheme that some clown peddling overpriced band-aids rather than being willing to stand in their own integrity against oppressors, frauds, and crooks might end up on the wrong path. But each of us faces similar challenges, even on a if only on a smaller scale every day. And that's why it's so important for us to understand that the only way to change our lives is to change our minds. I have a beloved friend who is 2 years younger than God, who is a much beloved drag queen. And she's literally older than the Stonewall Inn. And rumor has it that she was entertainment at the Last Supper. And no, I will not name her because that'll get me killed. But people listen to her when she speaks because she's been through and seen it all, the good and the heart wrenching, and the resilience that comes from being comfortable enough in their own skin to say, this is who I am, and I don't need your approval to be okay with that. See, my friend won't appear on my show because she doesn't want to get involved in politics. And that's sad because the people who made it possible for her to perform on stage, people like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, didn't like politics either. They understood that we who have voices either use them to lift one another up or we suppress them to make violence against us easier to achieve. You have to be willing to change your mind in order to change your world. So a good place to start is asking yourself what scares you. What's holding you back from doing something about it? And so that's what I asked myself this morning. And, you know, for so many years, going back to when I was a child who wanted nothing more after seeing The Sound of Music than to be a nun, I struggled with what would later come to be known as gender dysphoria. although there wasn't a name for it to the best of my knowledge back then. Initially, my upbringing kept me from discussing it publicly, except with one or two of my cousins. I went into a seminary, so I figured monastery is a monastery, and so that would be fine, but it wasn't. As I grew older, I realized that so many of my friends suffered from gender dysphoria too, but for them, it was a matter of being transgender. And so they were able to begin to find a path forward that helped them to resolve that dysphoria. Me, I wasn't so sure. Didn't feel like I was born the wrong gender. I just didn't feel, I didn't feel like I wanted to become a woman. And I was grateful to be okay with my genitalia, but I didn't feel like male or female were applicable descriptors for who I was, for who I am. And so the dysphoria there was that I didn't want to become one or the other. I just wanted to be seen as I am, as neither and both. And I'd appeased myself for a long time by saying that songs like How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria were secretly written about me. And then there was the fear. You know, if I identified as non-binary, would I get laid any less? Would I be less attractive in the eyes of those who were addicted to this milkshake that brings the boys to the yard? I mean, that really was a fear. And well, to be honest, the trauma that followed my being raped and beaten in 1983 pretty much complicated every aspect of my life, every aspect of intimacy, every aspect of relating to society. So I just kept the struggle to myself and a handful of those who have been closest to me. And then one day I woke up and said, damn it, if I'm going to change the world, I have to do it by changing my mind. I have to do what I talk about. I have to walk my talk. And just as I'd done by outing myself as a witch and a non-theist, just as I had done when people tried to bring my brief history doing porn up as a way to scare me or coerce me into doing what they wanted and ending my monastic career, I knew I had to stop playing the compassionate ally to my trans sisters and brothers and say the words, I'm genderqueer, I'm non-binary. And I'm not interested in anyone else's approval. I'm not interested in their disapproval, their encouragement, or their disengagement. See, I know I'm never going to fit in our society as long as there's a binary construct as a male or a female. I'm John Michael, a complex, twisted, passionate social justice warrior, a mental wellness advocate, a professional troublemaker and a healer and disruptor of social norms. And that's what I bring to the table in order to change the world. And I'm okay with that. Some people watching this are going to be okay with this statement. Others won't. And I have to be okay with that too, even when it hurts, because my mind shift requires me to make the change in my mind and let that and let that become grist for the mill, as they say, so that we can change this whole fucking world. And it all begins by being willing to be open enough and honest enough to share our stories, to be vulnerable. And so that's what I'm trying to do this morning. That's what I'm hoping to encourage you to do, to find that place where fear has kept you from being vulnerable, kept you from sharing your story. And in sharing your story, when we begin, enough of us begin to share our stories, we begin to change the world. And so I'll end today with this message from the Charter for Compassion, specifically focused on changing our stories. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Hi, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm a guy you might know. That's why I've chosen to speak to you today, because you know my story. Well, some of it anyway. But what if you knew everyone's story? What if everyone on the planet was familiar to everyone else? The Charter for Compassion wants to find out. They're asking you to tell them a piece of your story. One moment of compassion that changed your life. Each story will be inspiring in its own right, but all of them together will reveal a world of compassion happening right now in places all over the world, as diverse as Kentucky all the way to Pakistan and everywhere in between. Imagine it. Thousands of stories told one person at a time. Someone once said, there isn't anyone you couldn't learn to love once you've heard his or her story. Stories make us care. Stories help us understand. Stories breed compassion. And if there's one thing we need right now, in our politics, in our dialogue, in our communities, in our world, it's compassion. Go to charterforcompassion.org and tell your story. And while you're there, affirm the charter and make a commitment to make the world a more compassionate place. But it's only the first step. Now it's time to practice. It's the only way to a peaceful world. I can't wait to hear your story.